Hello, my darling souls. I am Kath Telford. Did you know you can rewrite your story? It's true. I've done it 100 times. Throughout this journey, I will share stories with you where I have dealt with trauma, loss, and insurmountable grief. How I healed myself from mental, physical, and sexual abuse. My battle with an eating disorder, low self-esteem, and chronic depression. I will also share lots of happiness and joy. Along the way, I will have some amazing guests who have inspired me and helped me become the woman I am today, all of whom have transformed their own lives. My mission with this podcast is to create a community, one where you will feel seen, heard, and above all else, loved. You are invited to reach out to me with your questions and input on what you would like to hear. With your permission, I will open your hearts and minds to the truth about life. This ride may get bumpy at times, so buckle up and let's go. Hello, my darling souls, and welcome back to yet another podcast of You Can Rewrite Your Story. Today, I have the amazing Jo Spehr with me, who is going to share her life experiences with us and tell you all about who she is, where she came from, and any little journeys and trips that she's had along the way that's helped her to land on her feet and get to where she is today. So join me in welcoming gorgeous Jo Spehr. Hello, Jo.
Thanks for having me. I'm really excited.
Hey. So, Jo, just you're a bit quiet, so if I'll get you to talk a little bit louder. Pull that mic up, babes.
Better?
That's better. That's
Great.
better. So, darling, my gorgeous girl, tell everybody who you are and a little bit about how we met, and then we'll go into your story and where you came from.
Yay, thanks, Kath. I am a human being. As far as I know, I'm also probably an alien, as we are all aware. We're multidimensional beings. But my name is Jo Spehr, and I am a female woman. I am 35, nearly 36 years old, and I am working as an event manager. I run my own business, and I help other entrepreneurs to run epic events, to bring their community together, to have those amazing in-person experiences, and to, scale their business to have more impact as well as to produce more income. I'm really passionate about helping people to reach success.
Yeah. And so you also offer mentoring as part of that. You're not just your run-of-the-mill event planner. You kick ass and make people accountable, which is fantastic with you.
Yeah, with my event packages, generally it does come with mentoring, because I really like to help people figure out how they can leverage their event to fit it into their business model in a really strategic way. Because we can all kind of go, yeah, let's just run an event, and it doesn't always necessarily mean you're going to make money. So I also help mentor the speaker or the leader to run the event in a way that creates the most transformation for their attendees, and also helps to position them to build more credibility and authority. So there's a lot of intricacies that go into the way that I help people and mentor people in their business. It's not just event management, you're right.
Which I love. So I've just employed the right words. I've engaged Jo as my event planner and kick-ass mentor for the next few months, because I'm going to be running events in the new year, which I'm expecting everybody to come to. But I'm really, really excited about what you're going to bring out of me, because you managed to pull stuff out of me at our first meeting.
Yeah, I love that. I do find that I have the ability to ask the right questions so that people can find the answers within themselves, because I have opinions and perceptions and perspectives on all sorts. However, it's so much more empowering when you can find the answers within you, and I do truly believe we always have the answer within us.
Yeah, you don't let me get away with floundering around the answers, that's for sure.
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I do. I'm pretty firm and direct when I need to be, but I'm also, I believe I have quite a warm and nurturing energy as well.
You are.
I could balance it out.
Yeah, no, you do it so beautifully well. So, Jo, tell us a bit about you, where you came from, what your family life was like, your background. Give us a bit of a rundown on Joe.
Yeah, there's so many stories in this. However, I was born in Adelaide and I moved to the Gold Coast coming up to 10 years ago. I love the Gold Coast, the weather, the environment, the people. It's such a different lifestyle compared to Adelaide. And my family are all back in Adelaide. So, I visit a few times a year and I really enjoy going back to see them all. But yeah, for me, my mum was 21 when she had me, so quite young.
Yeah.
And she was quite a lost soul herself and struggled with a bit of anxiety and depression and just really unsure of how to process her emotions. And at a young age, rebelled. She was a bit of, the rebellious one of the family, ran away from home and left high school and went down a path that probably wasn't, the best. And then got pregnant quite young and wasn't sure if she wanted to have me, but it did in the end.
Yeah.
And I love my mum and we've had many, many, beautiful in-depth discussions over the years. And she has a lot of, regret and shame and guilt around the way that she raised me. And we've both come to the conclusion now that, it was all beautiful and all perfect. And we've really helped each other, I believe, to grow into who we're meant to be. I believe we had a strong soul contract to come into this life in this way together. So I was the mum of the family, though. My mum ended up having 3 more children after me. So I was the eldest of 4. I took on a lot of responsibility. And my mum being a little bit unstable in her own self and in her emotions meant that I took on a lot and that I wasn't really showing how to process, regulate my own emotions either. And I was always the chubby kid. I guess food was my main go-to and my main comfort as a child. But my mum also drank a lot, and that drinking then also turned into substance abuse as well at certain points of her life. So she always was a very hard worker, though. Like, she always worked lots of jobs. She was often a single mum, so always put the food on the table, and we always felt like we had everything we needed. But so she I guess handed down these beliefs to me that you work hard for your money and you keep a healthy balance in life by partying or drinking or letting off steam on the weekends, or having that balance is what she used to call it. So of course I took on those beliefs and I finished year 12 and I went straight into a full-time job and worked hard for my money, and I loved to party and that was the way that I kept the balance and the way that I at the time unconsciously processed my emotions. And I modeled what my mum had taught me, so we're always doing the best we can with what we're shown.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
So I went through life quite successful, working for government mostly, working my way up the ladder in different corporate areas, and I loved to party, though. I was quite a party girl, and I didn't think that I had a problem with drinking or with drug use either. I was a party drug taker. Because I thought I had my shit together. So I was like, I'm good. But I was always the counselor or that person that people would come to and confide in, I think, because I had the mother archetype with me so strong.
Yeah.
And I also turned into a lot of codependency in my relationships, because that was how I thought I was to receive love from my mum, was by doing and fixing and saving. So then my relationships, friendships, partners throughout the years also reflected that pattern. So cutting forward a few years, it was about 3 years ago now, I was with a man, and beautiful soul, he was an alcoholic. And I didn't realize for a period of time until the truth started to come out. And it was really heartbreaking because I really had a lot of love for him. And to see him struggle with something that he called a curse, he actually felt that he was born with a curse because it was something that ran in his family, the alcoholism. And to see him want to be better, but like really struggle with not being able to control that use of alcohol, hiding bottles of alcohol around the house, things like that, broke my heart. And it made me really take a step back and have a look at my own relationship to drinking. And it was a hard time. We split, we parted ways, and I decided that I needed to have a look at, why I was drinking and doing drugs as much as what I was. Like, I was like, I'm 30-something years old. I've been doing this for, nearly every weekend since I was 18 and even earlier. And so it was a real catalyst for me. And so I stopped drinking for a period of time. I was like, I just need to have a break. I need to just figure out what's going on. And so much of the shit that I had been suppressing over the years started to come to the surface because I didn't have that vice anymore.
Yeah.
So I was very emotional, felt like who am I? What's going on? I was overwhelmed with emotion. And I also segregated myself quite a lot from my party friends because I felt like it was a very internal journey that I needed to go on. And I was like, no one really understands what I'm going through. I don't even really know what I'm going through. So I can't really explain to them where I'm at because I don't really know how to explain it myself. And so thankfully at this time, I always walk the dog in Burleigh, and on a Sunday morning, I started to notice a group of people down on the beach. And they were gathered in a circle, and it looked like they were meditating or something. And I've always been quite open to meditation and yoga and those types of things. And what they were doing was breath work. And I didn't know what that was at the time, but I followed them.
Oh, so this is where this little part of your journey started. Yay.
Yeah. Cool to be conscious. Some people may know of them. But I started to follow them and I was like, what are they doing? And I felt the call to go down there on a Sunday morning and join them. But I also had a lot of fear because it was something new.
Yeah.
It was something outside of the comfort zone and nobody wanted to come with me. And so I had to really follow that nudge and something's calling me down there. Just do it. Step out of the comfort zone, do something scary.
Yeah.
And so I did. I went down there and did breath work for the first time, which was so beautiful. It helped me to really come out of my head and overthinking patterns and connecting with my body, which allowed me to process emotions and things. But also just connecting with a like-minded community at the time, feeling so alone.
Yeah.
I was like, oh my God, I'm not alone. There are people out here on a Sunday morning that aren't hungover, that are actually wanting to better their lives.
Or still drunk and drug affected. Yeah.
Potentially.
We've all done that one.
It opened up my world to new possibilities. And that was really the start of my journey.
Yay. So now a couple of episodes ago, I talked about belief systems and how we get these ideas in our heads that we form as very young children in our formative years, between 0 and 7. And what, going back to what you were saying, being in a situation where you felt like you had to be the mother in the family and stuff, what was going on for you internally? Like, were you aware of feelings at those times, or do you think that you bottled a lot of stuff up until you were older? Talk to me about how you felt as a little girl in that position.
Yeah, I was very emotional, and I think it was because I wasn't feeling seen or heard in those emotions. So it was kind of like, shut up, don't cry, suck it up, that kind of thing. And I remember feeling quite frustrated, like angry in a way of like, oh, I just need to I need to be held, I need to be seen, I need to be supported.
Yeah.
I'm feeling all these emotions, but I'm not being honored in that. And I get that my mum was very overwhelmed with her own emotional states at the time, and then to have a child or multiple children.
Yeah, but I'm going to jump on you there because as a little girl, you're not aware that that's what's going on with mum. And whether you, you're having all these really big feelings, but you probably couldn't even voice what those big feelings were then. You've done a lot of work on yourself over the last few years, which has helped you put names to what those feelings were. But in that moment, you're not aware that this is what's going on. You just know that you want to eat a lot because you feel like shit and no one's hearing you, that you're being told to shut up and sit in the corner, or, go look after your brothers and sisters, or, fuck off and leave me alone, whatever language was used. And there would have been some, and I won't be, smudging over that because I guarantee that, you would have probably lived through a lot of that. Yeah. So when you're dealing with these massive emotions that are going on and you don't know how to vent, and you choose to use food as comfort, was there any other behaviors that you feel that you developed then that led you to, substance and alcohol abuse later on? Is there anything you can speak to in that?
I was always a very well-behaved child. I was a good girl, and so I think part of that conditioning came in as well. And I think now that I look at it in hindsight, always being needing to be the good girl, when I got to a certain age where I could just let loose and like go party, a big part of me just wanted to express in that way because I probably hadn't, wasn't able to before that. Like I wasn't able to be one of those kids that just ran around and had fun.
Mm.
Like I had to look after everybody and have my shit together all the time.
So do you feel there was a sense of abandonment in
Yes,
your childhood?
emotional
Emotional abandonment?
abandonment. Yeah. And yeah, abandonment stuff is something that I've like had to work a lot through, and recognizing that, especially recently, my mum was diagnosed with breast cancer. Noticing how she emotionally abandoned herself through that time, it just brought up a lot of that old stuff.
Yeah.
And it's actually been a really beautiful journey because it's allowed her to feel her emotions for the first time. And it's been beautiful that I've been able to support her through that because of the work that I've done.
Yeah.
Yeah, so she's actually recreating new beliefs around what it means to show emotion. She's like, I can't show emotion because it's weak. My partner will leave me. I've got to be tough for everybody else. She was worried about everybody else, when telling people about the diagnosis, but not about herself. So it's been really beautiful for her to be able to just acknowledge and for us to cry on the phone together. Yeah.
Yay. That's so beautiful. And I mean, breast cancer in women, I will always throw in a disclaimer here. We're not doctors and we're not professionals or we're not therapists, but from an energetic level, when you've stored that much pain in your body, it will manifest into some kind of physical disease. And breast cancer, my mum had it also. She survived for 20 years with different bouts of it. And I used to say to mum, it comes from having a broken heart. And my mum used to say, I've never had my heart broken in my life, Kate. I married the man of my dreams. And I said, what about, your mum was an alcoholic. You couldn't have children. You had to adopt children. You lost the first and only baby that you were ever pregnant with. That's created her. And she looked at me one day and she goes, oh, bloody hell, I hate that I've told you things over the years. But it's true. So these things that whatever put your mum in this predicament, that she had the lifestyle that she chose, there's all that stored emotion in the body that is going to manifest eventually into disease in the body. So, good on you that you've started to work through that because, from a human level, we'll be told, it's in your genes, it's da, 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 da. But we know energetically that doesn't have to be your story.
And I agree. And I've had these conversations with her as well. She's quite open-minded to all of the work that I have done and that I do. And in 6 months, she's been on quite heavy doses of chemotherapy. She had quite a big tumor, and the tumor has just recently gone. Like there's a few cells left there and whatnot. So she's still got treatment to go. But her last appointment last week, they've said that the tumor has gone. And I said, Mum, like you've healed yourself through allowing yourself to feel this emotion finally. And being the left breast, I also do feel a lot of it was to do with her feminine and her being actually open to receive and to express emotion and to feel emotion. So she always knew that it was going to be a journey for her, and the way that she's approached it has been so beautiful.
Yeah. Oh, Jo, I was so touched when I read that little message you shared that the other night on social media from your mum, and I just cried for you because I would give anything to have my mum still with me. It's been 17 years since I lost her, but I remember the first time she told me she'd found the breast lump. It was just earth-shattering for us, 7 kids to sort of go, fuck, she may not still be with us forever. So I'm so grateful for you that that's happened and that you've had this time with her to really work through these emotions, and talk to her to talk about the stuff that you felt as a little girl. So you've been able to share all that with her now, and how you felt as a little girl, not being seen, not being heard, not being held, not feeling supported. You've been able to share all that with her now.
Yeah, and since starting this work, I think I've shared a lot of my journey very openly on social media and with clients and even speaking on stage and things like that. And there was a part of me that didn't want to make her seem like the bad guy. So I was very open with her around, there's things that I'm sharing that is being filmed that will be potentially popping up on social media and whatnot. And I wanted to just make sure that it wasn't going to shock her or offend her or anything like that. But she was like, Jo, like, this is the truth. Like I own like that I didn't bring you up, I ripped you up, is what she says. Like and like I was always described as an old soul when I was a child. Like it was there's always been some type of wisdom within me, I guess. So even when I didn't consciously know as a child what was going on, I still feel that there was always a part of me that felt like I had chose my life and that I had chosen everything that was playing out. And I didn't know at the time what that really meant, but now in hindsight, I'm like, okay, right. Like I always just knew I had to kind of endure this and that there was going to be light at the end of the tunnel. But
like an inner knowing. Yeah.
And I'm actually really grateful now for everything that played out, because it's made me really strong and independent and given me a lot of the great qualities that I have in terms of also being able to read other people's energies and emotions. It made me quite sensitive to little minor, body changes or facial expressions and things like that, which is a survival mechanism when you're younger. However, now I do find it to be a superpower, and I find that it really links in with my intuition, because I'm able to read energy and read people in all different types of ways.
Yeah. No, that's amazing. So I call it my superpower is hypervigilance, because living the lifestyle that I lived for as long as I did, and then to have an addict for a child who has kept me on my toes, to say the least, and I became extremely hypervigilant.
Yeah.
So same. I can read into people just the slightest change in energy or expression on their face. So it is a superpower. Our shit upbringings and life. I had a really good upbringing, but there was trauma. There's always trauma. But it is our superpower, and I love having a superpower.
It's wounds to wisdom is one of the sayings that I love.
So talk to me about the rest of your family. So little brothers, sisters.
So I have a brother who's about 5 years younger than me, then my little sister, and then my baby brother was actually born when I was 15.
Wow.
And so because I was very mature and quite aware, I was with my mum through that whole pregnancy and that whole process, reading the books with her. And I felt like it could have been mine, because I was actually at this mature age and I was there at his birth as well. Wow. So being in the room was just something so special, like the feeling of unconditional love that comes into the room when the baby's in the belly 1 minute and then in the room the next is something I've never really experienced before. The only thing I can compare it to is actually when I've been in breathwork journeys and I felt the feeling of leaving my body. That feeling of unconditional love I've also felt at those times as well. And I'm like, that's the only thing I can compare it to, is like being there for my baby brother's birth, which is really special. They all live in Adelaide, so boys being boys, I'm not as in frequent contact with them as I could be, but I go see them a few times a year, and I'm quite close with my sister who has 2 little kids now as well. So
gorgeous.
But there is a bit of a story there around my dad. It's actually quite an interesting story. I didn't know who he was.
I was going to ask, because we hadn't mentioned Dad, and I'm like, I'm saving that one for later. It was about Dad.
Cool. So as I mentioned, Mum was like 21 when she had me, so she was 20 when she found out she was pregnant. And at the time, she had been seeing a guy, and then things didn't really work out with him. And so one weekend she went away to the country with a friend of hers to go to a party. And she met a guy there, and they had like, a one-night stand. And then she came home and found out later on that she was pregnant. So there was a chance that it was the guy who she'd been seeing. There's also a chance that it was this guy that she didn't really know who he was. And so I think I was about 15 or so when she told me this story. I always knew, just like, it wasn't like I had a dad and then lost him. I just kind of always knew, like, oh, I don't know who my dad is, and that's okay. It was kind of just normal for me in a way. But yeah, I got to that age and she was very, upset telling me the story, and I was like consoling her, of course, it's okay. But she said to me, if you ever want to try to find out, I can probably track down, the guy that I do know and see if he is your dad, but there is a good chance that it is a man that I don't know. And I was like, it's all good, don't worry about it, Mum. And then years and years later, I think I was about 23 years old, and I had a period where I didn't talk to my mum for about 5 years. But we had just started to mend our relationship, and I just started to speak to her again. And I remember I was at work, and Facebook at the time used to have a second inbox that people you didn't know, if they messaged you, the messages would go into the other inbox.
Yeah.
You didn't get a notification for it, but I was at work one day and I went into this other inbox and I found this message from this guy. Hi, I met your mum 23 years ago. I think I might be your dad. And I was like,
what?
And so I rang my mum and I was like, Mum, there's this guy and he says he's from Bordertown and he says that he met you and la 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 la.
Jesus, Bordertown.
Yeah.
That's a good,
Yeah. That's
good
what
Bordertown. Yeah.
She was like, well, it checks out. Like, and so
Oh my God.
we did a paternity test. Like we went on, there was an online one where it was, done by a lab, and he got sent a test, I got sent a test, got sent back to the lab. 99.999% we're related. And so I was like, wow. So we met up, and it's a pretty cool story. Like he apparently always knew in the back of his mind, like, there's a chance that I could have a daughter out there, because apparently a friend of my mum's was a mutual friend of theirs. So he had heard that she was pregnant and thought to himself, oh, that could be mine. And apparently he had tried to contact my mum, but my mum at the time was like, it's nobody's baby, it's my baby. She didn't want to deal with it. So, but in the back of his mind, he always thought for many years, oh, I could have a daughter out there. And then I think he was watching a Find My Family type show one day, and it came up, and he's like, I need to find out.
Oh my God.
So he was like, all right, all the 20-year-olds these days are on Facebook. He got his friend's son to help him get a phone that could download Facebook to create an account.
Oh my God, I love him.
Yeah, he started investigating.
Yeah.
Because I think he knew my mum's last name, which is my last name, but didn't know how to spell it. So he went on this full investigation and found me. And so we met a few times. This was just before I moved to Queensland. But over the years, we've had a few ups and downs. It's been a little bit tricky to navigate how you become daughter and father without really having those years to grow that bond, I guess. Plus, when I go back to Adelaide, he's 3 hours from Adelaide, so it's not always easy to just like catch up and whatnot. But he did come to visit me in Queensland not long ago, so we've been really, building a stronger relationship over the years, which has just been so beautiful.
Oh my God, that's so beautiful, Jo. So, being adopted, my birth family are in Adelaide. My birth mother was from Adelaide. And I know that, I was 30 when I found my biological parents, and I found like my birth mum, I loved her with all my heart, but I was still her daughter. Like, even though she'd given me up for adoption, in her mind for all those years, I was her baby and her daughter. But I didn't know her. So it was a real struggle for me to find that even relationship there where, and I had to say to her at one point, Mum, I don't speak to my own mum this fucking many times a week, So I totally get that, trying to find that balance between, are we friends? Is this my mum? And same with my biological father. He's, my kids have always called him Pop and I call him Poppy. But it's a weird thing because he wants, he rings me for chats and I'm like, fuck. I don't know. He's not my dad. You know what I mean? My dad was my dad. The guy that raised me was my dad. When you didn't have that experience either, but it's like when these people come into your life and it's like, how do I navigate this? Who are you to me? What am I meant to feel? Is it bad that I don't love you in this way? That's a real big one. Should I love you like I'm, it's a big struggle.
For it either.
Hey,
There's no rule book for it.
there's no rule book. It's absolutely no rule book. Oh
Yeah.
my God. So now, my darling, aha moments, we were talking about the alcoholic partner, and that's sort of what led you to where you are now. So talk to me about the last 3 years with your breath work. Explain to the listeners what breath work is for starters, because I freaking love breath work. I think it's an amazing experience. So talk to them about that and what it does for you.
Yeah, great. So as I mentioned earlier, in the past, I was quite in my masculine. I'd put this shield up around doing and overthinking, and I was very logical. And that was a protection mechanism because I didn't really know how to just be in my feminine and feel safe to do that.
Yeah.
So for me, being an overthinker and overanalyzer, I was getting often very caught in my head, and I didn't realize how dysregulated I was. Also working 9 to 5, Monday to Friday, throughout my whole life, I was kind of caught in that hustle culture in a sense of like working hard. And then even partying hard on the weekend, my body wasn't really getting much time to actually rest and rejuvenate and whatnot. So I was thriving off my cortisol response, that stress response. I actually was. I thought I was a superwoman.
Superhuman.
I'm
Yeah.
like, I don't ever need to rest. I can like go out all night and then go to work the next day. And like I'm totally fine, like crazy. But yeah, through breath work, what it allowed me to do in not even big breath work, like the original sessions I was going to was only 10 minutes of breathing, but it is a very active, conscious breath that we were doing, the connected in and out through the mouth, which is what Call to Be Conscious mostly teach and use. What that does is it actually slows the brainwave state down from that over analytical high beta. And so that monkey mind and the overthinking, your brainwave state is very active. It actually slows it down in only a few minutes, coming down into the low beta and the theta state, which is more calm and in coherence with your heart, and it's less in your head. Yeah. And I don't think I had ever really had any tool that I was able to use to help me to actually feel that calm and present in myself. And yes, I had done yoga. Yin yoga has been something I've practiced for many years, which is also very restorative and really gets you into your body. So it has a similar effect, and meditation as well. But for me, I found that I struggled to meditate at the time because my mind was so active and so overthinking. So breath work was the most powerful tool that I had found to really allow me to feel grounded in my body. And also sometimes I would just start crying or my eyes would start leaking and I wouldn't necessarily even know what the feeling was, or I couldn't necessarily put a memory to what was happening or whatnot, but my body just knew what to do. So I think it was the first time that I'd fully really come out of my head and into my body and allowed my body to just do what it needed to do to release the years and years and years of stored emotions I had. Yeah. And so doing that every week, I started to get addicted to it, going to the group sessions, but I started to do it daily as well. I started with, the 2 or 3 rounds of Wim Hof breathing, just using the YouTube guided video to just get into this state. I would do it at the start of the day. And I was like, who needs drugs, man? I can get high off my own supply. And so I just loved the way that it made me feel, and I felt so energized and I felt so clear in my mind. And what I also found is that it helped me to meditate. It helped me to drop straight in after I breathe. I can then drop straight into meditation because my brainwave state has already come right down into a meditative state. And so I just found so many benefits to me. And I also, with releasing the years of emotion that was there over a period of time and doing longer and deeper breathwork sessions, I started to really release all that energy and emotion that I was storing, which then like peeled back the layers of all the shit that I thought I needed to be and actually started to reveal the true me underneath that.
Yeah.
It gave me more confidence to want to do more personal development and actually learn more about why I was suppressing emotions and what was going on in the body. And so that was the catalyst. But I then started to go down the journey of really diving into figuring out, who I am. And I'm doing a lot of work with Dr. Espen and all the chakras and releasing emotions. And then NLP seemed to be the thing that a lot of people were using.
Yeah.
Like, what the fuck are you doing? What are you doing that's making me feel so good, and like rewiring my mindset?
Yeah.
And then I realized most people were using NLP. And so I was like, all right, one, I'm doing breath work because this is a magical tool that everybody needs to know.
Yeah.
And I actually got the message through a deep breathwork experience that I needed to become a facilitator. So that was the first time that I had that feeling of unconditional love, as I mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
I remember I felt like I left my body and I had, this is your path, this is your purpose. And I was like, shit. And so I came out of the experience and I went straight up to Rue and Rye, the facilitators. I was like, I don't know what just happened, but you need to sign me up for your facilitator course because I just got a message. So that was the first step, and wanting to help other people know about this magical tool and
Yeah.
also the science behind it. I was like, this doesn't need to feel or seem very woo-woo, even though I knew I was having magical experiences.
Yeah.
I'm like, for the logical part of me as well, I was like, there is so much science here that backs this up. So then I decided to do NLP, and I was like, right, I'm becoming a coach and I'm helping people overcome all the stuff that I've overcome, and left my job, and so it all really just happened from there.
Huge. That's huge. And
Yeah.
it's, like I did a session on Sunday with Joe at an event, and I still have a little bit of, in case you didn't notice, Joe, I still have a little bit of resistance around it because there's nothing, I don't like not feeling in control. And I probably wasn't breathing as deeply as I should have been breathing. And somebody came up and touched me, and I'm pretty sure it was you, Joe, just gently, like on the breastbone, and this release just came out of me. And it wasn't, it's stored grief, and I know that there's still a lot of grief in the body and stuff like that that I've suppressed over the years. But it was such a beautiful, like, it wasn't a loud sob or anything like that. It was like the tears just came and they just rolled down my cheeks, and I just let them come. And it was such a beautiful sensation. So it doesn't have to be, I know people have a thought that sometimes breath work has to be this thing where you're all very loud, and there are some people that have very vocal releases in these sessions, which can be quite daunting if you've never been into a session. But sometimes it's just like what I had on Sunday, which is such a gentle, deep release of emotions without feeling threatened that you've had to go right back into a traumatic experience to bring that up. Am I right in saying that?
Yeah, I agree. I think different people facilitate sessions in a different way, and I find that every group has its own energy as well. So I remember the first few sessions that I did were being held by by men. And I guess for me, I did feel safe with these men because they were safe men to really go there and to scream and to release and to get that stuff out that I needed to. Plus the other people around me were the permission for me to go there as well because they were all releasing as well. And then there were, like, I remember I had the first session that I had that was being held by mostly feminine. And that actually was a very gentle release. And it was a lot of releasing to do around my mom. And I remember feeling like I went into a part of myself that was holding on to my mum's inner child's grief. And I remember feeling that release. And I do believe it was because of the feminine energy around me in that space that allowed me to go into that. So yeah, I definitely agree. It doesn't always have to be big traumatic releases. Just trusting and surrendering to whatever needs to come through is the most beautiful way to go about it, I've found.
Yeah.
Like, setting an intention is great, but also just letting that go and knowing that your body is so wise and it will do what it needs to do, and just trusting that.
Yeah. That's beautiful. Thanks, Joe. So we are going to finish up the episode with some tips and tricks. Tips and tricks. I don't like saying tips and tricks, but we want a bit of practical advice, or a tip, video you can recommend people watch, a person you can recommend someone can follow to learn more about breath work, anything like that. And then I want you to let everybody know where they can find you. And let's give everyone a little task. I like to give everyone a little task to do. So apart from a video tip or some kind of lead in that direction, let's give them something to work on themselves.
Right. I can do that all in one, really.
Nice.
So if you go to my Instagram, which is at Jojo_Spehr, SPEHR, I have on my link tree there, I have a video that you can go and download for free. It's a demonstration that I've recorded, and it has an audio attached to it as well. And what this is a very simple daily breathwork practice that you can listen to and do in the comfort of your own home or wherever you want to. And when I was transformation coaching, like I'm now doing event management purely in the business, but I was doing transformation coaching for a long time there. This was the first task that I would give absolutely everybody to do first thing in the morning, or, you know, as part of your morning routine. And it's literally, I think, less than 5 minutes. And it guides you through a couple of rounds of deep activating breaths in and out through the mouth with some breath holds in it. And if I could give like everybody one tip or trick or tool, this would be it, because I've found that many of my clients in the past have found the biggest shifts in themselves just by incorporating this into their daily routine. It is actually really very powerful, very simple. Anybody can do it. It's very safe. And yeah, I know that a lot of people say, you know, they do it for a regular period, and then they might have a few days where they, you know, oh, I didn't get to it today. They always say to me, I noticed the difference in myself because of I didn't do it on those days. Yeah. And so it makes them still to this day, they're still committing to doing it.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's many different types of techniques on YouTube as well. You know, like I said, I started with Wim Hof. There are some on there that I still go to. And I think just find what works for you. There are, if you're not into the deep, active mouth breathing, doing some restorative breaths in through the nose, out through the mouth is also very calming and regulating. So yeah, some people don't necessarily want to go into that deep activating breath. So realistically, the message here is just take some time to breathe consciously throughout the day. For me, I don't necessarily sit down and do a breath work every day, but there are multiple times throughout the day where I am connecting in with my breath intentionally, taking a deep breath in and releasing it out through the mouth, to the point now that I actually am so aware of when my body is feeling something, because breathing in really will connect you in with the sensations in your body. And getting you out of the head, right? We have a lot to think about day to day. There's a lot going on, yes. But how many breaths are you taking consciously throughout the day?
It's amazing when you start checking in with yourself and go, fuck, I'm not breathing. I haven't breathed for about 10 minutes. I better breathe. Yeah.
Some people hold their breath through stress as well. Another tip that I have given my clients in the past is setting 3 alarms on your phone throughout the day, morning, afternoon, evening, and it's just a check-in. So it might be you take 3 deep breaths for yourself, put your hand on your heart and one on your belly. It might just be you taking a minute just to connect in with yourself, to check in and be like, how am I feeling right now in this moment? And if you are feeling stressed or anxious or tense, what do I need to give myself right now? Maybe it's a quick 5-minute walk. Maybe it's go and have a glass of water. But what I find mostly is that just taking 3 deep breaths will always just bring you back into the moment.
Yay. I love that. I hadn't thought about the alarm thing. Thank you. That's a great tip.
Check-in alarm, or it could be like a vibe boost. You know, sometimes raising our vibration is also another great tip.
Getting up and just moving.
Just dance, I put a song on and I dance around the house and I lift my vibe up, especially if you're in full work mode.
I
need to shift my energy.
Yeah. I find that at work, which, you know, as you know, I've just quit my job. But I'll get there and I get in the zone and I'm stuck at that computer all day and I'm writing notes and I'm bashing my head against the matrix and fighting with the government, trying to get funding for people and, you know, whatever. And then at the end of the afternoon, can I tell you how often the C word is used around our office, where we just stand up and we'll all stand up and go, fuck the government, you're all cunts.
Yeah.
Excuse me, anyone's offended by the C word, but we love it. But that's our way of moving our breath, is that word gets used a lot. And actually the movement of that word is pretty powerful.
It is. Another thing I love to do if I'm feeling frustrated, like part of this journey has been like acknowledging and learning to accept all emotions. None of them are negative.
No.
Anger is welcome. Just acknowledging when you're feeling something. So if I'm ever feeling frustrated or fucked off, I love getting in my car and just screaming at the top of my lungs and letting that energy move through my body. And then I'm good. Like, it doesn't take long, but it's when we let it build up, we start to get resentful, we start to feel it, and then you're like that firecracker that wants to explode. And it's probably over something stupid like, your partner didn't put the rubbish out.
Yep.
And then that's the thing that set you off. So if you can just like honor those emotions and express them as they come up, they don't build up to the point where they're then going to blow, you're going to blow someone's head up.
So when my kids were little, talking about the car thing, and I'm aware of the time and we will check out soon. We have a morning, because it was a madhouse. I was a single mum. I had one kid with ADHD, one kid with a learning disorder, and mornings were chaos in my house. And I was a drinker. So I wasn't a daily drinker, but I was a binge drinker. So when I did it well. And so mornings could quite often be chaotic in our household. But what I learned to do with the kids, we get out to the car and I'd get them to hold the back of the headrest. And, CPS might arrest me for this in these days. But what I used to do was set the kids, hold the headrest and sit behind me, and we'd turn the music up really loud and we'd scream, "Fuck you, universe!"
Yeah.
And then I'd go, "Windows down," and we'd get the windows down and we'd go, "Now get rid of all that negative energy out of the car." And then we'd be laughing so hard. So by the time I got to school drop off, I was dropping off happy kids. So despite the fact home was chaos, I was not releasing them on the world. Well, there were days they got released on the world in that condition, but that was a really conscious thing that I did with them. And if any time we were having a shit morning or a shit day, it'd be like, "Get in the car, let's go." And we would just crank the music up and just scream "fuck you" as loud as we could until we were laughing so hard. And then we'd let it all out the windows and then everyone would be great. It was just the best exercise for getting that emotion moving through the body. So there's a tip, mum, any single mums out there that need to release there. So we've got Wim Hof, but number one, Jojo's so we're going to put Jojo's link in the show notes, of course, and she's a one-stop shop. She's got so many amazing things in her resources in there for you. So Jo, any other little words of wisdom before we say goodbye to you today?
What can I tell you? But the thing that I usually always say when I get asked this is you've got to feel it to heal it. I think that was one of the biggest lessons that I ever learned. And it really goes in with the theme of what we've been speaking about today, knowing that your emotions aren't bad. They're not negative or positive. They just are an emotion and they need to be felt, to be released through the body. And I think the other tip that really changed a lot for me, I was a perfectionist in the past. And I like to say I'm a recovering perfectionist.
Recovering perfection. It's hard work being perfect.
Yeah. I know. And you know what it is? Again, it's a superpower that I have a high standard and a high quality. But I think for anybody out there who knows they want to do something different but might be holding themselves back or waiting for the perfect time or waiting for that moment for it all to be right, take imperfect action. When I heard that there was a thing as imperfect action, I was like, well, what?
Can you enlighten me? What is imperfect action? What is it?
It literally changed it. And that was when I started to do lives and I started to just show up and I allowed myself to be a beginner and to be a student and to be seen in imperfection. That was one of the most massive lessons that I learned, especially at the start of my journey. So give yourself permission to be imperfect. We're all human, right?
So human. So human. We were laughing, Pen and I were laughing last week going, is it really bad to say that we don't like humans, but I love everybody's spirit, but there's some humans I really don't like.
The ego maybe, yeah.
Love their spirit. Love their spirit. All right. So I'm going to sign off from you. Oh my God. You and I will connect again very soon. But I will say goodbye to you now, gorgeous Jojo, and I will finish up chatting to my listeners and update them on what's coming up on my next episode.
Amazing.
I will
Thanks for
talk to
having
you
me.
very soon.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. I hope you enjoyed that incredible episode with the beautiful Jojo Spehr. She is a light in this world where we need lots of light. Next week, I will be doing a solo episode just to give us a break for some guests for a while. And we will be delving deep into sexual trauma. And I will be sharing with you some of my experiences with this throughout my life and how I worked to overcome them. So check out the show notes from today's episode to see the links for Jo and all the great resources that she offers on her site. And I look forward to speaking to you all again next week. Remember, I love you, I love you, I love you. Thanks, guys. Bye.